friends, how are you? How is your ESL journey going? It can be hard sometimes. I've been there. I know I speak English as a second language myself, and that's why in my channel I try my best to help you overcome these struggles. And today specifically, I'll talk about what my struggles were, maybe still are, and how I overcame them. Like many of us, my first and biggest struggle was the fear of failure, like embarrassing myself in front of people. I don't know why we have this feel of obligation that we must reach the level of a native speaker. It doesn't make sense to me. That's why I love the term ESL, English as a second language, because it helps you create realistic expectations about yourself and English. When I was in my TESOL training, I learned a lot about second language acquisition. And one of the theories links this fear to being self-conscious. When we acquire our native language, we are just babies. We learn and imitate. Babies don't have the concept of being made fun of or being embarrassed. Like if a baby says bower instead of water, no one's gonna go like, oh, that 2-year-old just butchered that word. Right? I mean, babies are not self-conscious. We become self-conscious. And according to this theory, it's the reason why we learn grammar and language rules first so that we can learn properly. Acquisition comes along the way, if it ever does. I overcame this fear when I prioritize acquisition over learning. Classroom English confines you to a very safe space. You don't experience daily spoken English. Learning English only provides you with 20% of what you actually need to improve your English skills. That's why acquisition made me less self-conscious. It sharpened my skills and removed me out of my comfort zone. That safe space you get very accustomed to in a classroom filled with self-conscious students who are only learning English and are afraid of making mistakes. If you want to learn how I consciously made this switch, please leave a comment down below and I'll make it the topic of my next video, because acquisition is mostly a subconscious process. My second struggle of speaking English is I feel like I have two different personalities. Me when I'm speaking Turkish and me when I'm speaking English are sometimes totally different people. I worked on this a lot. I struggled with this a lot. I always questioned myself. I was like, why is this happening? I hated the feeling it gave me. I felt like a poser. I felt fake. Somewhere along the lines, I realized that it's just the nature of languages, Turkish, my native language, has many sayings, idioms, proverbs, curse words that cannot be translated into other languages, most especially English. Trying to translate your native language characteristics into your second language is like trying to explain your inside jokes with your best friend to your coworkers. So I realized it's just natural. I stopped fighting it. I embraced it and it helped me improve my skills faster. Because that feeling of being fake, it kept me from sharpening my skills. Because how can you, when you're feeling fake, when you speak English or even think in your mind in English? But it's not true. It's just the nature of languages. Culture and daily life shape languages to a great extent. How can you expect two different languages to reflect you the same? You can't. So I embraced it and I made my peace with it. My third struggle. There's a saying in Turkish, working iron doesn't rust. So if iron is not working, it will basically collect dust. You realize when you don't use English for a while, you become rusty. It takes some time to get back to the same speed you were. It may not be all English, but for example, My job mainly consists of me talking to my international customers. We talk mainly on WhatsApp or email. So I'm constantly writing in English. But all members of my company are Turkish except for two. So unless I'm in a meeting with them, I don't speak English at all. So my English might get rusty at times. I always knew this when I realized I couldn't remember a simple word or a phrase that I am sure that I know, but I didn't realize the extent of it until this week. I had to explain a new feature to my colleagues in a meeting, and while I was briefing them, I started to speak very aggressively. The reason for my aggression had nothing to do with the job, but I just hadn't spoken English that much in a very long while, and I was kind of nervous. So, in order to maintain my pace, I just became more aggressive with each word because I was basically fighting with my mouth. Every time I felt like my mouth was falling behind of my brain, I made my mouth pick up the pace so that I would catch up with my brain. And it resulted in me giving a very fast and very aggressive brief. And I hope my colleagues didn't feel like this because I probably sounded like an ass. So my point is, maybe you haven't done anything that would require you to use your English. Or maybe like me, you used only one skill consistently, but the other skills ended up being rusty. You have two options. You either accept that you get rusty and it's okay, or you create yourself an environment when you can keep your skills sharp at all times. I call this the ultimate ESL habitat, and if you want to know what it means and how you can create this, leave a comment and I'll explain it. My fourth struggle is sometimes I feel like I'm driving a hybrid car. I don't know anything about cars, but I felt like it's the perfect analogy because it feels like I'm driving a hybrid car, and without my permission, sometimes the car switches from gas to electric or electric to gas. I'm sure you will understand what I mean. Sometimes when I'm speaking English, my reactions come out in Turkish, my native language. For example, for something gross, Americans react like, ew, right? Like, ew, that's so gross. Turks react to this like, ıy, iğrenç. But sometimes when I'm speaking in English, I just say, ıy, that's gross. What's worse is that sometimes this happens vice versa. So when I'm speaking Turkish, my brain switches to English for a while. So I just say something like, ew, iğrenç. It's like, what the? And the worst feeling is you see that on people's faces that they go like, ugh, what a poser. You just see that expression. It's so devastating because you don't control it. You can't control it. It just something makes it switch. I just try my best to keep in touch with my native language more. I found the solution in reading books in my native language. I don't know why, because books are not my favorite go-to source when I'm practicing English. I always appreciate audio more. But in the case of my native language, I found books more helpful. It just gives me a sense of quality time with my native language. Other than that, meh, if you think this is being a poser, you can. I'm not sorry. I'm sure you can relate to at least one of these struggles. Maybe you had them before, or maybe you are still struggling with some of them. So if you are, I'm always here to help. I just share my experience and I share some exercises to help you overcome these. So don't forget to subscribe not to miss out on my content. And thank you for watching. trying to translate your native language characteristics. My fourth. And will you get back?